Welcome to episode 3 of Rooted and Ascending. We are going to be talking about how planning is half the journey to success. In this powerful and insightful episode, we explore the intersection of planning, manifestation, and generational impact through the lens of attorney Marlon Brammer's journey as a successful estate planning attorney. That takes a lot of planning and insights. And as a business owner, we're also both of Jamaican heritage. So I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. We'll have a lot in common. This episode will highlight how intentional planning, both spiritually and professionally and personally, lays the foundation for lasting success. We'll explore how manifestation and vision work alongside the structured process of estate and business planning, creating not only wealth, but we're focusing on creating legacy. Marlon will share the personal rituals, mindsets, and cultural influences that I'm sure I'm gonna find in common here in regards to Jamaican culture, but what shaped his success while also educating listeners on the importance of estate planning. I was resistant to estate planning starting out just because I think even culturally there's a negative perspective. It's almost like saying we're planning for our demise, and that's not true. So Attorney Marlon is going to cover that. And this conversation, by the way, is meant to be honest, inspiring, and rooted in purpose. That's why we're here. That's what the purpose of this podcast. So take what you may, but that's what we're focusing on here, ultimately getting to our purpose. Thank you so much, Attorney Brammer, for joining this podcast. And by the way, I just want to first talk about where you practice, what the name of your firm is, and what do you focus. When we talk about planning and that being your career, what does that entail? What's that all about?
Thank you so much for having me, Sharifa. Thank you so much for making this platform available for people such as myself to come on and talk about what we do and share the boring stuff that we do on a daily basis. But it's very important for, I'm pretty sure, everyone here who is listening. So I practice in the areas of estate planning, business, and real estate. And I do that intentionally because there are several connections between those three areas that people tend to always cross. And it always either it is a good trip across those areas, or it could be a tripwire. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to guide folks through those three areas. If you're opening a business, selling a business, building a business, I'm here for that process with you, as well as your estate plan and putting together some sort of planning in place for you to take care of your assets while you build your business. And of course, real estate is one of the most significant assets anyone will ever own. And so I'm here to support you on all three of those journeys and everything that goes in between them, such as probate.
Absolutely. And I think without the planning, it's almost, before I talked about people not liking the idea of going to an attorney to plan for, when I think planning, of course, planning for your demise, but it really is planning for your success. And I
Absolutely.
think failure to do that is sort of planning to fail, and or even for our future generations, our children. If we don't have a plan in place, how are they going to benefit from what we have earned in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are many anecdotes that we can lay down with regard to that truism that you just shared with us. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And
Mhm.
it's important for us to make sure that, one, we have a vision. We have a vision of where we want to be. And I think you addressed it correctly. It's not all about you're planning for your demise. You're actually planning for the success of your use individually, your family, and as well as the community that you serve. We have to play the long game. We've been absent from that game for quite some time, and it's important for us to be aware that we need to start to be the ones talking about building old money, generational money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Protecting that over time. So it's important for us to get engaged, informed about what the process is, and utilize these resources that are available to you readily every day.
Absolutely. Yes. And now, speaking of what you do, where did this all start? How did this start? What's the start of your journey that helped you to get to this enlightened stage?
I like the term enlightened because it is truly a full it came full circle for me because I started out in the financial services industry. And I actually went to law school after an incident in the financial services industry to kind of address issues like that. So my intention was to be on the regulatory side of things and make sure that I could assist or assist the investing public in that regard. I partially did that. I worked for the Florida Department of Financial Services and the IRS for a short period of time. However, there was an experience that brought things to bear for me, where I experienced my losing my dear sister-in-law at the age 39,
Mhm.
and that was a tragic, unfortunate event that occurred on Father's Day of any other day at our home, and it was a turning point for me, and it also helped me to bring into focus certain things that have been lingering in my life as well, with regard to the our family actually had ownership of acreages of property, like thousands of acres of property. And I remember visiting these legacy homes and having family meetings there. And the people, the leaders or the elders at the time, they used to go off in the corner and have their private discussions, and then the kids would be off on their own doing their own thing. And if we should get in that circle, the conversation got quiet. Once we realized what was going on, we realized they were literally trying to talk about how do we handle this legacy. And to this very day, I cannot say that I can put foot on 1 acre of all those acres, right? Primarily because again, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And this was done during the generation of folks living, during my generation, and people ahead that are still alive who are a part of that whole process, right? So it's important for us to make sure that we're laying the foundation, not just for yourself, but for the generations to
That's
come.
right. I definitely agree with you on that. Because I myself actually you opened my eyes to estate planning and um, the benefits of it. And I think the driving force for me was my son. That was the thing that, because I had never been educated about estate planning. I felt like at the time I didn't have anything. That's the other thing. It's sort of like we minimize what we have,
Mhm.
and you think, oh, whatever, I don't have anything. But there's so much that even if we don't have, we can plan, have that structure in place.
Having that structure in place, having that foundation is extremely important. We don't build a home or put up the walls without a foundation. And I've dealt with the clients who are in their teens, right? Primarily because, again, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what these people are going to accomplish in a very short period of time. Like I said, all this wealth was lost. I'm an eyewitness to the loss of this wealth, right? And hopefully I've been living for a few more decades, right? And my kids are witnessing this loss as well. So it's important for us to build that foundation. Why would an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old have a plan in place? Primarily because of a couple of reasons. Well, once you're 18, you are no longer considered a
Mhm.
minor, right? And you can't make a decision for your kids in certain
Yeah.
areas, right? It was a very sad day for me when I went to the doctor's office with my daughter. And that day when she walked into the office and she said, "Stay out of here, Dad." You know, I that was one of those eye-opening moments for me that, you know what, it's on her now at the tender age
Yeah,
of 18.
that's right.
And she had to make those decisions. I couldn't pry unless it was something very serious. I couldn't pry and get involved in her decision making. Right, we're sending these kids off to college at the age 18, sometimes even 16. We're sending them off to college, and hundreds of miles away. We have no idea what's gonna become them while they're in college. How do you get access to their
Mhm.
medical records? It's those very simple questions that we can handle today with just the use of one or two
Yeah.
documents, right? And it's important for us to set that foundation, because I know of quite a few kids who are in their teens, and they're making millions of dollars, and they don't have the
Mhm.
foundation for it. I like to highlight a couple of the popular examples, such as Allen
Mhm.
Iverson. He was a successful basketball player who obviously had a storied career, and he pretty much lost. Well, I would say almost. He almost lost it all. Pretty much lost all that he earned, but had it not been for a trust that was created with Adidas,
Oh,
it turned
wow.
and he uh, it became effective. I think maybe 20 or 30 years post his
Oh
career.
my
It actually
gosh.
saved his life, right? So it's important for us to lay that foundation, because we just don't
Mhm.
know what we don't.
Hmm. You're right. I mean, I think for me, being a mother and a single mother at that, I know that if anything happens to me, who's gonna take it? How do I want my son to be raised? As even something simple,
Right,
it doesn't even have to do with money. Doesn't have to. What kind of
right.
values should he be raised with? Just to answer something
Yes,
like that, you know,
yes.
what should the path of his life look like? You know, what should his,
Mhm.
who's going to help him with his educational goals?
Right,
Otherwise, he himself could fall into foster care. He could, I mean, I don't think he would, but, I wouldn't have a say. And because of that, that would add an element of instability to him if something happened to me. And that's not fair to him, and that has
right.
nothing to do with even assets, or it just comes down to values and emotional well-being of a child, you know. So,
Yes, yes. Leaving a legacy has this amount to do with wealth
mhm,
creation and wealth accumulation. It's all about the ethos and the values that you pass on to your children and to the next generation. They can obviously identify with that ethos that you've shared over the years, right? And you want to kind of leave that imprint, um, and you can do that through planning, right? You can leave that legacy through planning. It's not just about wealth accumulation. It's about being responsible and staying rooted in certain aspects of your life that you want to instill
that's
in
so
your children.
true. Exactly. Going back to your roots, I know you talked about your family, having
Mhm.
thousands of acres, and then it sounds like ultimately losing it.
Yes.
How would you? I know that definitely impacted you, but how would you say on a whole, growing up in Jamaica, how has that impacted your pathway to the career you have, and also helping other families to appreciate the benefits of planning ahead?
So I would say the Jamaican influence has been tremendous, right? So there's this um, collective uplift that pretty much the entire community fosters, and my family did as well. You know, there's an old phrase that says something like "where you left for the picnic them," right? That whole common belief that you need to leave something for the next generation, right? Whether it be a piece of land, a bank account, life insurance, whatever. There needs to be some sort of vision beyond you, right? So my grandparents and my parents, they taught me that success, it's not just
Mm.
personal, right? It's more about creating foundations for the generations to come, and it's rooted in there's a proverb that says a wise man leaves inheritance for his children's
Mhm.
children. So we need to be thinking about the generations even beyond the generations that we can think about. And I'm pretty sure that it's just in our DNA as a human being to wonder what is going to be said of me once I pass. What is going to be um, remembered of me? What can I pass on that's impactful to the next generation? So that's the reason why I emphasize legacy planning as opposed to maybe wealth creation, right? So wealth creation is just, again, this small portion of it, but it has more to do with tying these cultural values to ourselves and the
And keeping
community.
it going.
So
Exactly,
keeping
because
it going.
if not for the legacy, for not if not for a future generation, then what is it for? What was it all for? Yeah, I
Right.
know as a mother myself, that's how I think. I think about Josh's time and how he's gonna live his life, and how the life I live and what I give to him is gonna impact him going forward. So you're so
Right.
right on that. Um, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about success. What does success mean to you?
Well, success. It's again. I wouldn't emphasize so much wealth, right? So success is I think it's a subjective feeling or manifestation of your own self, and what you perceive to be successful. But for me personally, success has more to do with having balance in your life, right? There's an old phrase that says faith without works is scripture that owes faith without works is dead, and I would say works without faith lack any direction, right? So we have to have some sort of faith, and I think faith is important to me as far as success. If I can transfer these beliefs onto my children and the generation to come, I think I've done a good job. Now, if they're going to add these material aspects to it and help to better their lives, go for it. Right? That's all about. That's again in fulfillment of the scripture. It says, "And all these things shall be added
Mhm.
unto you, if you seek first the kingdom of God." So success for me is being balanced, finding that balance. We're in a world that has to deal with practicalities, right? We need to make sure that we can eat, right? We need to make sure that we can survive and be practical about life. But at the same time, we need to be able to inspire others. I think we're placed on this earth to help. I think that's our primary purpose on this earth, to help each other, to assist each other in whatever way that we can. I think there's a old quote by Bob Marley says that if my wealth is just for me, I don't
Mhm.
want it, right? Right. So that's important for us to realize that yes, wealth accumulation is part of the equation, but it's a minor part, because once you've accumulated wealth, it has to go somewhere, right? Every wealthy person will tell you that money needs to keep on circulating, and if we know how to tell where this money should go, or command where this money should go, I think we've really developed that balance that I'm talking about. That we know exactly who we are and what we want to accomplish, and we can't be compromised as a result of it.
Yeah, you're right. I think I totally agree with you. Going through my own journey, I've realized that it really comes down to the why in a
Yes,
substantive way, and then the rest of
very
it
good.
follows, right? So,
Absolutely.
just overcoming obstacles in a great way with a good attitude, being positive, um,
Yep.
being uh, being able to make a difference, and
Sure.
then the rest tends to follow. But if you pursue
Yeah,
that why
absolutely.
and you answer the why,
Absolutely.
that's
Hmm.
where I believe the success is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so let's talk about how to get to that point. I mean, talking about the why, um,
Hmm.
for me, I have come to learn that it is about having a vision. I'm a daydreamer. Like, I will put
Me too.
aside 2 hours of the day just envisioning what I want, my life, my future to look like, what I want, my role in the
Sure.
world to be. And I guess that it, in a way, it's vision, and then accepting it and saying it's mine. Um,
Hmm.
what about you? How have you walked the road to your own success?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a dreamer too, right? So I remember in uh, primary school, right, or even in high school, drafting business plans, right, drawing
Wow,
out things and coming up with concepts and ideas while
that's
class is
next
going on,
level.
right? So, so then this is before the whole advent of vision boards and all these modern concepts, but it was always birthing me that I need to own a business, right? I need to be a business owner. I need to be a part of a community, making change, creating an impact in some way, form, or fashion. And so that has been always a part of who I am. And as a result of that, I think a vision, the Bible says that without a vision, people perish, right? So it's important for us to have a vision and then have it manifested. Is manifesting sets the vision pretty much, right? So it's funny to see over the years certain confirmations come by, right? You don't think about it, right? But then you look back and like, well, yeah, when I was in ninth grade, I actually drew. I remember
Hmm.
drawing this,
Hmm.
right? Or in college, you think about certain aspects and you're actually doing it. Even in law school, you're thinking about certain things, and now you're actually manifesting in it. So it's important that we develop these various visions and affirmations, and make sure that we have these concepts and frameworks in our mind, and not only that, have the faith and the tenacity to see it through, right? And not be discouraged by the naysayers or the difficulties that are legitimately presented in front of us. We just need to be overcomers. And I think having a vision is extremely important. I don't know how people do it, but I dream every day,
Hmm.
right? So,
And believe it or not, there are some people out there that they have no clue about that. If And one thing that came to mind, by the way, as we're talking about vision, having a vision, manifesting, is it goes back to what you do, and that is actually an
mhm,
action that one is taking to do that.
yes,
Because in the estate planning,
absolutely,
I like in the estate plan that you helped me to create, I had my
hmm,
vision in there. It's all about the future and tailoring what I have now, it either, what exists now, how can that help to shape the future? Talking about different aspects of the way Josh should grow into a man. So it's
right,
it's
right.
it's a part of taking the action to plan, and
Right.
manifest it.
And it's funny that you say that, because when we were doing the planning, I never knew that you had those doubts. You're mentioning that you didn't have, you don't think you had anything, but I always saw something more, right? So it's important for us to allow someone outside of you, a professional, preferably, right, that would be able to see beyond what you can see and provide you the counsel and guidance so that you can get there. Planning is as the action that breathes life into your vision, right? So you might be able to say that I have these ideas and these concepts, but once you start put pen to paper and you start developing that framework, it just breathes life into your vision. So it's important for us to, use those resources that are outside of us a lot of the times, and make sure that we're doing
That's
proper
so true.
planning.
And you know what? Let me tell you the feeling after doing an estate plan is a
Mhm.
sense of reassurance, peace, because the questions you had before, if something happens, then what happens to Josh? It's answered, it's resolved,
Right,
right? But the
right,
doubts
right,
stem from not understanding how to do it. And
right.
getting your guidance, of course, that became very clear. It took a lot of
Hmm.
burden off of my shoulders. So
Hmm.
it also goes back to answering certain questions that calms the doubts, and then enables you to continue to move forward steadily and in with
Right,
confidence. Because okay, even if I veer
right.
off the road a little bit, there's a plan in place.
And it's important for you to trust your gut, right? So there are reasons why you would have doubt, and that's okay, right? That's okay. It's you need to respond to those voices, right, and address them one by one, right? And again, you do that with proper research and counsel and guidance and all that good stuff, and it helps to quiet. And by the way, you're growing obviously by leaps and bounds, and you're going to be pushed to the limit of your
Mhm.
existing plan, right? So that's when more doubts are going to be created, and you're going to have to address those doubts as you go along, and you just got to trust the process and
Yeah,
trust your
that's
gut.
true because we're not committed. We Plans are gonna change and visions are gonna change. Like I remember when I
Yes,
was young, speaking of when we're dreamers, we were in school. Every year I get up.
our
Yeah,
dreams.
yeah, we are dreamers. I still
Yeah,
am. Exactly. I like to have my quiet time and I just sit and
right,
daydream. But
right, right.
one of the things I did was I used to just list out about 6 professions that I want to be.
Hmm.
And I remember every year, oh, my classmates got to know that when I got up, when the teacher said, say your name and say what you want to be. And now they got by second form, because in Jamaica, I think second form is like eighth grade. So second form,
Hmm.
by second form, get up, they know exactly what I'm gonna say. And people are snickering, they're laughing. But I
Hmm.
couldn't understand why they were laughing, right? Because I'm just like, I'm
Hmm.
gonna be all of those things. Now, yes,
Right.
I didn't end up being all of those things. But what ended up happening though is that I was able to become all of those things as a lawyer because all the things I
Hmm.
listed were roles in advocacy and making a difference. So narrowing
Right.
it down to see my it
Yeah.
changed, right? But the vision helped to guide me towards that one role that
Yeah.
could do it all. Do what I
Right. Right.
pictured I would be doing.
Initially it's like a smorgasbord of ideas, right? And it's kind of cloudy, but you have a general uh, inclination that this is the direction that it's going to go, and over time, life and maturity and information chips away at all of those sharp edges, and it creates a much clearer definition as to where you need to be and what you need to go, or what you
Mhm.
need to become, where you need to go. So it's important for you to again trust the process, and I'm glad that you did, because then you had that, that moment where you just looked and say, this is it,
Yeah,
aha, the moment.
exactly. So while we're not committed to keeping the same plan, because a lot of people, I think they think that they think if I make
Hmm.
a decision that I want to do this, I have to stick to it. So I'm just not going to commit to anything. But I think
Right.
what we need to understand is we have to be committed to achieving something and have some
Hmm.
idea, but we can change it. It can change.
we're, yeah, we're constantly
Yeah, and it's the
evolving. Yeah.
same with an
Yeah.
estate
Yeah.
plan. change.
Right.
I
Yeah,
still come to
absolutely.
you for changes. When something
Right.
changes, it has
Right.
to change.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Right.
and I think we can become disillusioned, and that's where we get
Hmm.
setbacks and possibly risk not getting there when we commit too much to it needs to go this way. Instead, it's all
Right.
about going with the flow, making sure that you're changing the plan as things, circumstances change. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it requires
Mhm.
courage, right? Requires courage to take that first step, not knowing where this step is going to lead. And then once you're prompted to make a left turn or a right turn, that requires courage,
It's
right? But I've been on this path for so long. What do you mean I need to make
mhm,
a right
mhm.
turn? Right? It requires a lot
So
of
can you
courage.
tell me in your life what has give me an example of that where you're at a crossroads and you had to change the plan or you had to change the vision a bit.
Right. So there, I recall a moment where I'm out of law school and I'm applying for a coveted position at a law firm that I loved. I wanted to work for so much. And I went through the entire process, and the interviewer sat me down. I totally forgot his name, but I remember his face and I remember the moment. He looked at me and he looked at my resume and he said, "You know what? I see you as a business owner. I don't see you in this role, right? I see you as owning your own business and running your own business. I see you as a leader in that regard. I don't now whether or not he was just trying to let me down easy,
Well, that's a nice way.
you know, but he pretty much so that was one of those moments where I had to say, you know what? Should I continue? Because the reason why he said that is because he saw that I did have quite a few experience in and outside of the legal field running a business. So he felt that I should continue on this trajectory, and it was hard for me to accept. Well, one of the reasons why I have this varied experience is because I wanted to work at an institution
Yeah.
such as this, right?
Mhm,
And here I
mhm,
am. I'm here for
mhm.
the pickets. So he said, "I like you very much, but I think you're a leader. You're a business
Wow.
leader. You need to focus on that." So I found that to be one of those moments that you just described, where you literally had to have the courage to accept what things are, right? How they're, and there are many of these crossroads that we face in our lives. I can go on and on, but there are many of them that we just have to literally and you know what? Years later, I didn't accept it. Right? I went on and I found another job somewhere, and I worked there. What have you? And
You,
here I am. Right?
you got
Finally
there, right?
accepting. Yeah, finally accepting what he said years ago. Right? So it's important for us to again have that courage to go out on that limb and trust the process and have
Yeah,
faith.
yeah. Right. And I think a lot of people fail to plan because it's so scary. There's
Hmm.
this belief that I may not get there. What if I don't get there? So they don't want to
Right.
even start the process of thinking through what could I do? What could my plan for the future be? But I think that's
Hmm.
a dangerous start to have.
Right.
Um, so, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to keep you on track in regards to the path you're on? Because I believe we're on a journey until we're not on that journey anymore. So, what
Hmm.
do you do on a
True.
day-to-day basis, or what have you done throughout? Let's start with this. What have you done from you were young that has, or at what point did you start doing something every day that has helped you on your path?
I would say that the most important thing for me is prayer, right? The ability to connect with whether you pray to God or well, obviously mine is with God, but once you have that connection that keeps you grounded, and you realize that this journey isn't just about you, it separates you from the muck of things, the daily grind of things, and it helps you to stay focused on what needs to be accomplished for that day. I'm always um I'm always of the belief that in any circumstance that I'm in, or any organization that I've served in, that I wasn't necessarily there for a paycheck. I wasn't necessarily there for the self-aggrandizement. I was there mostly for maybe one person, two persons, right? I was there for an assignment, and once that assignment was over, I would obviously be moving on to the next, right? But there are obviously some circumstances where I'm there primarily to serve the needs of my family and myself. But I think prayer is one of the key uh, aspects that I've started. I can't say I did it early on, right? But it was one of those rituals that I accepted early on. But I accepted early on enough for me to feel as if it's a very important part of me. Making sure that I review all my prior plans, right? If I have a vision board, if I have some sort of written plan, I make sure that I'm revising it, reviewing it, see if I'm hitting something, if I'm missing something. Always try to adjust and look at things that I've done over the years, that I've done well, that I haven't done well, right? Try to make sure that I build upon a set of resiliences that would keep me going on, because at the end of the day, the only one can motivate you is you, right? Because no matter what I say or no matter what Sharifa says, it's gonna be ultimately you either embracing the counsel and applying the wisdom that's being shared with you. So developing that self resiliency is a key aspect for me. And I think just being connected to again people who I love, right, and people who love me and support me. It's important for me to make that connection and keep that going. Those are the maybe the two or three things that I can think of that really propels me in the direction that I'm going.
I definitely see, relate to you to, for me, prayer as well. Prayer drives the faith because you know that there's well, for me, I know there's a higher power out there that can guide
Hmm.
me on the journey to the purpose. So
Sure.
it's letting go and letting God, so
Right.
especially during these hard times. I'm an immigration attorney, and I
Hmm.
am doing a lot of praying and going by faith. And I've seen such results from that where it almost
Hmm.
feels miraculous. You know, with everything
Yeah.
swirling around, I can still
Hmm.
find the ability to help my clients to feel safe,
Yeah. Right.
and that
Right.
is by doing that every day. It's a daily requirement because we know
It is.
we're going to hit
It is.
very hard obstacles. Yeah.
It is. It's staying rude. Yeah, I just don't know how people operate without that staying rooted on something that's bigger than you, right? I can't believe I could ever operate thinking that I'm the center of the universe, right? So making that step of humility to realize that there's something bigger
Hmm.
than you, right? That you need to connect with and use it as some sort of
Yeah,
guiding light.
that's true. Stay rooted. It helps you to stay rooted in purpose. Let's go back to, I want to talk about some planning mistakes, because we want to make this practical as well. We want to ensure
Hmm.
we all walk away knowing the habits we need to have, but legally as well. What are some of the mistakes that you see families make or individuals make? What are some of the most common mistakes?
I think we discussed a couple of them. So one of the most common mistakes is
Mhm.
procrastination, right? Just putting it off, not wanting to commit, not to making that courageous step to at least put some frameworks down, right? So the procrastination is one of the biggest keys. One of the biggest problems that I face. I'll plan later, right? But the nothing's promised to anyone, right? So we have to make sure that we take those necessary steps. I think another problem that I find is common is the do it yourself plans, right? Those are the plans that someone may have downloaded from a
Mm.
website, or they may have handwritten it, or maybe even AI for that
Oh,
for that
yeah.
matter, right? It's a do it yourself plan, and not realizing that this entire process involves um, using the resources available to you to a professional that's committed to the area of practice, right? The laws changes often, circumstances change, and I can give an example of a DIY that I've actually experienced, where there was a trust that was pretty much done by the person who created the trust, and this trust was supposed to cover a couple $1 million, right? Well, the person who created the trust died and never properly funded the trust, right? It's not just about downloading documents, folks. It's not
Hmm.
just about the AI drafted. It's a whole lot more that goes into it. So they didn't fund the trust properly, and so that person died. The beneficiary who was supposed to receive it actually died as
Oh
well.
my.
So now we have a third generation person who is interested in trying to collect off of the beneficiary's interest, and so we're stuck in a situation where we're going to have to probate two um, individuals before we actually take care of that, right? That's because they again did it by
Mm.
themselves and did actually go through the process of utilizing a professional. And I'd say the next top problem that I find is not properly recording. It's related to that as well. Not properly recording the our funding the trust, right? Making sure that the home is titled in the name of the trust, or the bank accounts, or the life insurance is repositioned. All of these, can't be done by AI, right? So we want to make sure that we are doing things properly, dotting our I's and crossing our T's, because again, we end up in probate court, even though we might have a fancy trust that we created all by ourselves. Maybe a fourth. I like a fourth. I see a lot of families, especially Caribbean families, they tend to want to include their kids on their assets, right? So they'll say, "Oh, well, I put my son on the
Mhm.
house, I'll put
Yeah,
my daughter
that's a
on the
common
bank."
one.
Yeah, very common, and it's you're introducing a whole lot of problems with regard to that,
Wow.
right? So we want to make sure that we are again doing things properly. If you're not married to that person, they don't need to be on your deed, right? And if you're not in business with that person, they don't need to be on your deed.
Mm-hmm.
So and I'd prefer marriage
Hmm.
over the business, right? So obviously there has to be a business purpose for you to be owning property together, but um, you know we need to make sure that we're doing things in decency and in order, and that's kind of my three or four pet
Yeah,
peeves.
that's very valuable. Because see, even I am stopping to say what, because I know so many Caribbean, Jamaican relatives,
Right.
people,
Right.
that they say their plan is to put their child on the house. And
Yeah, on the house.
yeah, to
Yeah.
hear that that could actually be a mistake is alarming. Because
Yeah. And it's well
yeah.
meaning, but you introduce a lot of problems
Mm-hmm.
there.
As a result of that, the whole thing is all of those mistakes sound like it. What happened here is sounds like they're trying to do something, except for the
Right.
procrastination part. But
Focus. Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it turns out worse because they did it the wrong way, and everything they tried to avoid is it still happens. And so it
Right.
goes to now taking the right action. So you've created a plan. You think it's a good plan, but you didn't take the right action to make it
Mm-hmm.
reality. So
Correct.
yeah, definitely, hear that out. I know I didn't make that mistake because I got that's why I got the help, because I don't have room for errors here. So
Right.
if you're listening out there, make sure that you take the right action. And that does mean, yes, getting help. And it's not an expense, it is an investment. I always say that. It's an
Right.
investment.
Right.
So you've built a successful law firm. What are the three non negotiable values you planned around when you started your business?
It was important for me to have an impact on the community somewhere, form or fashion, right? So being able to it's a common mistake that business owners make, and you see it like especially on the international stage where a company like maybe Burger King might go to India and try to sell beef burgers, right? So not understanding your clientele is a non-negotiable for me, right? So it's important for me to be able to meet my clients where they are in their process, and I often have to remind myself that I was there too, right? So I understand the lack of understanding and the inability to really embrace what I'm sharing. So having that cultural humility to understand that person's upbringing or value system or culture that's now affecting the decision making process sitting right in front of me, right? So having that ability to connect with my community is very important. I don't want to be Burger King selling beef burgers in India, right? So you want to make sure that you're being responsive to every and I serve a diverse community of people. Education is very important to me. I want to make sure that Sharifa is educated and she's aware of her options that are available to her. And so I invest a lot in coming out and talking to folks on platforms such as this. In fact, I was on one yesterday and one prior to that on over the weekend. So it's important for me to make sure that we're
Mhm.
talking and educating the community and letting them know that there are options. We're coming up on Juneteenth, and Juneteenth is obviously one of the most uplifting yet sad historical stories, right? So I tell people that I experience Juneteenth every day, right? Primarily because there might be folks walking into the office, they know and understand that there is freedom and they want to experience it today with me, or there are folks walking into the office and they're unaware that there's a freedom available to them, and I'm glad to share it with them, right? So it's important for me to again educate. That's a non-negotiable for me, and making sure that I'm reinvesting in the community somewhere, form or fashion. And that's goes way beyond uh, education. It involves trying to volunteer my time somewhere and trying to be an impact in the community. So those are the three legs that I try to
Mhm.
stand on. Not all the time because I'm not always out there communicating because I do have to do some work. But I try my best to touch on these
Yeah,
three
that
points.
that's important, going out into the community and giving back. Because it
Hmm.
is does come down to education, just like we're doing today. A lot of people think success is all about the money part, but you notice we're not really talking about go invest in this or I did this to invest. We're talking
Right.
about the foundations, because if you don't get that foundation right, then you're never gonna get to the monetary success. So going out into the
Correct.
community and educating our community is definitely an awesome way to start. So we can we can all spread the cheer and the legacies that we want to carry forward. If you could tell your younger self one thing about planning and trusting the process, what would it be? How, because we always say trust the process. Like, if somebody said that to me while I was in the middle of something, it gets kind of agitating because I'm not I'm not hearing tell me how to fix it. I'm just hearing, have faith. That would have been me, my younger self. So
Right.
what, how would you elaborate on that? What would you tell your younger self?
Schedule your life, right? Make sure that you put your life on the calendar, right? So after you've created the vision board, after you've developed a plan, you want to start documenting this process, right? I tell people that things don't happen if it doesn't appear on my calendar, right? So it's important for you to make sure that yes, I want to attain X by December 2025, right? And you make sure you put down December 12th, 2025, and you work towards that goal. Again, there's no one that's going to motivate you but you, right? And I could have put that on your calendar and it would mean
Right.
nothing to you, right? But it's important for you to make that commitment. So you got to not only trust the process, but you got to commit to the
Mhm.
process, right? And that's what I mean by schedule your life, right? Make sure that you are committing yourself to the process. You're not just simply trusting the process. Yes, pray over the vision, write the vision down, make sure that it's in your system, right, in your heart, but you got to commit yourself to the process. So that's if I spoke to my younger self, I would tell him to stop fooling yourself and make some
Right.
commitments, right? Make some commitments and walk into that purpose that you have. You're gonna make mistakes, right? And you're gonna have a bunch of failures along the way. But it's important for you to at least commit to
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
failures, right? Because those failures are lessons, right? You own
Mhm.
those failures, right? And say, you know what, I did that. I know exactly why I failed. You can't just walk away from a failure with frustration. You got to walk away from your failures with some sort of idea as to how to
That's
fail.
right. Like I think it was Denzel Washington that said, "Fail forward." Yeah,
Fail forward.
that's so
Yes.
true. So I take from
Hmm.
that, then definitely you schedule your make sure you put your plan on the schedule and take
Hmm.
action towards the plan every day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Legacy wasn't built in a day, but it's
Yeah,
built daily, right? It's something that you build over
that's so
time, and you gotta give it the room to ferment, right? That's how legacy is built.
And if you know you have a deadline on your calendar, you're going to say, and you
Mhm.
take it seriously. Because you know what, even as
Right.
business owners, right? I used to think of it this way. I opened my own law firm and things would be a little hectic. And maybe I don't want to do something, I'm procrastinating, right? Well, more
Hmm.
like this. So, you have work to go to, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. You jump out of your bed no matter what's happening. You make sure you're there at 8 a.m. And then
Hmm.
it goes to you need to have the same respect that you would have for somebody else, another employer. You need to have that same respect for yourself to show up the same
Hmm.
way. So if you put something on the schedule, you have to treat it, you have to treat yourself with that level of respect more than anybody else to know you need to show up on that scheduled date.
So you need to show integrity to yourself before you start showing it
Right.
to others,
Exactly. And that's
right?
where you do that, you're going to get to where you need to be. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you so much. This was so
My
enlightening,
pleasure.
always is.
My,
And I do want to ask you to just let us know if we want to find you. Where can we find you, contact you to get started on a plan?
I gotta say this was extremely fun, and I thank you so much for having me here. But if you are interested in planning or just simply talking with me and seeing where a plan can go, you can find me at the brammerfirm.com, 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 or you can reach out to me on all our socials underscore Brammer Firm.
Awesome. Thank you again for your time. I really appreciated this. I've walked away feeling motivated and ready to keep going towards my purpose. I already had the plan, but it was so nice to connect with you to talk about the things
Absolutely.
we did, and we have so much in common. So it was nice to be able to talk on that deeper level.
Thanks again
Thank
for having me.
you.
It's always fun talking to
Yes,
you.
same here.